Hi there, Geoff Coughlin, Scale Modelling Now. I just wanted to bring you a short inbox review which in SMN terms, that's Scale Modelling Now terms, means we'll show you what's in the box. You can have a good look at the sprues and we'll make any observations or comments that seem apparent at this early stage. What we'll then do is go on to do a full build in the magazine, and that's obviously the exciting bit where we can find out exactly how the kit goes together. And it's really great pleasure to bring you this review of the BN.2A Islander from Britain-Norman. The kit is from Valom. It's a new tool from what I can see. Never seen a 48 scale Islander before, and this has got lots of nostalgic memories for me. And when I was a kid going to Jersey in the Channel Islands and on holiday there, and I just remember being really excited at the time because we managed to fly BUA on a BAC 111, which was kind of state of the art at the time and really, really exciting. And I remember having to work extremely hard to brake on the short runway at Jersey Airport and also to get airborne as well. But of course, no such issues for the Islander, which was a frequent visitor. In this, I think it's Aerorigny, I think that's how you say it, livery that's actually included in the box this time around, which is exciting. There's another Coast Guard scheme as well, and we'll get onto that in just a moment. So let's have a look then and see what we've got. Obviously a nice piece of box art there, just evoking the kind of memory I was talking about. Although that I think is over the Needles off the south coast. Not sure, it certainly looks like it. But what have we got here, sprues wise? Well, let's just have a look. As you can see, this kind of light tanny colour is what we are faced with. And coming in, you've got some really nice recessed panel line detail there, which is very good. Some additional strengthening pieces. You seem to have what seem to be set. Perhaps upper wing flaps just set there. I think the wing seems to have some flaps already preset, slightly in the droop position. That may be how they always were, I've no idea, but that would seem odd. But that's quite nice, quite a nice touch really, to give you that included. You've got some nice detail here on the spats, which lead down to the two main undercarriage units. And then let's just flip over. We've got some seats here, which you can see, which are absolutely fine. So we've got crew seats, and then we've got seats included for the cabin as well. So just moving that one out of the way, let's get the fuselage in, which is always a key part for me. Again, got some nice detail in there. Got some quite raised plates and sort of a moulding here. It'd be interesting to just compare that with some of the original pics that I've got and see how that compares. But other than that, we've got the two-piece cowlings for the engines. But the detail is certainly crisp and the shape looks good. And then of course coming over here we've got the wheels, which are moulded in two halves in the normal way, but slightly different in the sense that you need to sand off these little moulding blocks on the back of each one and then just pair them up, which is no great shakes. Looking ahead inside the aircraft, no moulded detail inside the fuselage, but I don't think that makes a huge lot of difference, to be honest, because on the final main part sprue, apart from the clear sprue, you've got the cabin floor here, and you've got those seats on the other sprues that we looked at, and of course you've also got the tailplane. Looks like the engine cowl rear underwing surface parts there, and the two prop blades, which are also included. This of course has got a fixed undercarriage, so they'll always be out, so there's a little opportunity to do a little bit of detail in there. I think around the wheels with some brake lines, so we'll have a look at those when we get to the build. And then moving on, clear parts. These are excellent, very, very clear, which is great to see. Hopefully they will fit nice and snugly, which will also be good. And also a tiny little etch fret, as you can see here, which primarily seems to contain some cockpit details there. We've got various belts and harnesses. We've certainly got a decent instrument panel, which is nice to see. To go with that, you've also got, just coming over here, you can probably see here, we've got an acetate backing for the panel itself, which is fine. And then one or two other panels also for the cockpit, as you can see here, which will be good. They'll add a little bit of interest there. You've got various throttle levers, I think, and other levers for the control column. While we're over on this side, let's have a look at those decals. So it looks like a nicely printed decal sheet, very nice actually. No name on that, so I'm not sure whether that's been passed on to one of the other key decal manufacturers, but the colours are good, they look nice and solid, they're in register, impressive really, to say the least. So this Valom Islander, the yellow one, is quite challenging potentially because it's got all the black striping down the sides. Well, hopefully they will fit nicely, maybe possible to mask instead, not sure. That might bring its own challenges, so we'll just have a look at that when we get to that in the build. So coming over to the instructions, as you can see here, in fact, just while that falls out onto the colour painting guide and decal guide, that's impressive. So there we are, that's the scheme I was talking about. It'll certainly stand out on any model table, that's for sure. But you've got some nice touches there, like the red nose, got the black under fuselage panel, basically overall yellow with all that striping, so that's tidy. Another one that looks really impressive, not seen this one before, is the Coast Guard one, which is rather nice. That looks impressive, doesn't it? With the white, and then you've got all those red panels as well. So bit of a choice there for you, but I think for me it will probably be that yellow one, simply because I remember seeing so many of those at Jersey Airport, and Trilanders, which is of course the 3-engine version of the aircraft. Instructions are very simple. I mean, it's a simple kit. I mean, whether it goes together or not, well enough, we'll find out. But certainly, it's a simple kit in terms of build and construction. And you can see here inside just how that panel will go together, which is no great shakes. Okay, got the engines. I imagine there's just looking at some of those parts, there's a little bit of flash around some of them, nothing to write home about. I'm sure it'll just be a case, or I hope it'll just be a case of a little bit of fettling in there, making sure everything is nicely cleaned up, and then fitting it onto the airframe. There we go, you can see the interior as it's suggested, with 3 banks of passenger seats in the rear, got the cockpit as is, and then the clear parts, the windows, will slot in to the recesses. You need to be careful with those. They look as if they fit it in exactly, rather than the fact they do, rather than have a bit like the old sort of traditional method of a wider frame on the inside, where you push the windows into the fuselage from the inside so that there's a frame that holds the thing in place. These would appear to fit exactly into the holes. So be careful with that in terms of when you apply them, when you add them. Might need to give that some thought, because the last thing in the world you'd want would be to push too hard attaching it once the fuselage is together, only to lose the window into the interior, never to be seen again, or to find a very tricky job to get it all out again. So that's another little thing just to watch for. There we go, you can see you've got separate wingtips, and how it all kind of goes together. All kind of logical to me, doesn't seem to be complicated in terms of its construction. I think this is just going to be a case of making sure you do everything really cleanly, nicely, and take time to make sure the parts fit well. A few little pieces of photo etched here. You can see actuators there for the various control surfaces that are on the aircraft. And then finally we come on to those very final details. There we go, what we got there. Okay, just little bits and pieces to finish off, little aerials and little air scoops and other bits and bobs of that sort. And it's quite a nice touch, just showing those, what appear to be little strengthening plates on the underside of the fuselage, which are photo etched, that are included, and there's a clear diagram for where those go. And there we go, that's the very final pieces, just to add, depending on which type, which aircraft you're deciding to finish yours as. And that pretty much, I think, concludes this short in-box review. So I hope you found that useful. It's just, I think it's a useful insight into at least what you get in the box, because that's never apparent usually, of course, unless you can physically get hold of the kit. But at least this has given you a good indication of what to expect. And for me, I think it's very positive from what I've seen at the first glance. Hopefully, with a bit of effort, it should make into a really nice little representation of a Britain Ormond Islander. And for me, that's a really great thing. And I hope you enjoy the build that's coming up in scale modelling now fairly soon.